if you're one of those people that have applied to a lot of different agencies and you didn't get in, or you were not selected, got disqualified, this episode's for you. Today, we're talking about building your resume so that you stand out in a higher level than the other candidates you're applying against. Let's discuss. Listen, before we get started, those two gifts are down below in the description for you. Getting started as a police officer, our workshop walks you through the entire hiring process, everything you need to know so you don't make those mistakes that will get you dismissed or DQ'd or just not selected as you go through each step of the hiring process. Additionally is the free coaching call with myself. Jump on there. If you have something that's specific to you, if you're in the process, if you're thinking about getting into the process, you need to know where you stand. Maybe you're just coming out of college, maybe you're coming out of the military, or maybe you've wanted to be a law enforcement officer for a long time and you just need some guidance. I'm here to help. Sign up. Those are my gifts to you. As I said, no charge, but let's jump into building your resume. Now, I've said this before, and I'm not going to spend too much time on this. A local and state resume, 1 to 2 pages, 2 pages max. A federal resume, 8 pages minimum. All right, 8 pages minimum, because you need to get through the referral process. And a lot of times you have a computer generating based on answers to your question and based on keywords that you have in there. So how do you build your resume? How do you stand out? First thing you have to understand is that words matter, and the words that you use are going to make you stand out. If you can use terminology that is in line with law enforcement, that is very similar to law enforcement terminology, you're better off and you're going to stand out. I'll use the bank manager as an individual. If you sit here and say, yeah, I supervise 30 people and I run bank operations and handle copious amounts of money, that's great. And I mean, it's good that you've done that and you've made it to that point in your career, if that was your current job or your previous job. But you have other assets that you could really use or really put down on your resume. So bank manager, proficient in dealing with customer service, dealing with complaints, client complaints or individual complaints, proficient in handling stressful situations, everything along that line where you use those terms to correlate it and overlap it with the law enforcement profession. Law enforcement officers have to deal with customer complaints in a sense. They have to deal with people who are having the worst day of their life, most likely, because that's why law enforcement has evolved, because they're having a bad day in some way or another. So they got to deal with de-escalation. Throwing in words like de-escalation, that's going to be a big key term in today's world as you apply to law enforcement. So proficient in de-escalation, trained in de-escalation techniques. Excellent. Perfect. Right there. You can use those type of terminologies as a bullet point in your resume. Don't focus so much on your day-to-day operations when you're filling out your resume, so much as focus on the key terms that transition over to law enforcement. If your main job was checking a vault every morning to make sure there was $10 million in there, you're not going to write checks vault every morning to make sure $10 million is in there. You're going to say something as routinely inspect vault security to ensure that value assets are protected and safe in the sums of excess of $10 million, right? That's kind of how you would word your job description. If that was your main job description, I'm not saying that's going to be it, but that's how you would word something along those lines if you're a bank manager. Notice how I said everything that you do, but I use the safety, the public safety, and the law enforcement terms that will really stand out to someone. Okay, hey, this individual is proficient at ensuring vault security and safety, which is a lot of what we do in law enforcement minus the vault, but we do asset security and safety of buildings, of communities, everything like that. And the individual does it in excess of $10 million a day and is trustworthy because they're dealing with over $10 million a day. It's fantastic. It's something that's going to pop out at me, and I'm going to say, hey, this individual knows how to tailor their resume to fit the law enforcement profession. Okay. Now, I can't sit here and give you every aspect that is possible for your job profession or your experience level. If you have military experience, you can convert that. If you have prior law enforcement experience, you can convert that. If you have security experience, you can convert that. If you are a bank manager, you can convert that. If you're a teacher, you can convert that. You just have to know the terminology. Here's a trick to help you learn some of this terminology. Go on USA Jobs. Go on USA Jobs and type in 0083. 0083 is the federal series code for uniformed police officers. We can get into the other codes for criminal investigators if that's something you want to look into as well. But 0083 is going to be the basis of where you start your resume, especially if you haven't done something in the past that immediately translates over to law enforcement. So immediately translates over as if you've worked security or armed security in some aspect, or you've worked as a special police officer in a major city where technically you're a security contractor, but the city identifies you as a special police officer. That's easily translated resume information, right? You can just take, plug and play. Hey, I'm proficient in handcuffing. I'm proficient in firearms operations. I'm proficient in safety and legal evaluations, things like that, easily translated. But if not, then you need to know the terminology that goes with it. So if you go to usajobs.gov, right, this is where you would apply for a federal police officer position. Type in 0083, and then you're going to go down, click on a job. You could click on something from Capitol Police, or you could click on something from FPS, Federal Protective Services, any uniform position or any position that's listed up there that's an actual law enforcement position, and scroll down to the description in it and notice the terminology that it has of what it says your daily operations are or your daily duties. Then you read those descriptions, read a couple of them so you get a variety of terminology, and then learn how to convert your job into that. So if you see something as proficient with dealing with individuals that are angry or individuals that are agitated, so then bank manager. Come down to proficient in de-escalating situations with individuals who are angry or agitated and coming to a consensual agreement without further issue, right? That's a good way to put it, or that's a good way to spin your skills into the law enforcement skills. Law enforcement isn't what we see on TV where you're running and gunning all the time and, you pull your gun out at every traffic stop. That's not law enforcement. All right. It's not real law enforcement. That's TV. That's not what your daily duties are going to be, depending on where you get a job. You're going to need to learn how the biggest tool a law enforcement officer has is their mind, is being able to think critically and being able to de-escalate the situation. And departments want that now. They want that more than anything else, because the last thing a department wants is getting jammed up or sued, or even worse, being the department that's named in a national headline because one of their officers made a mistake. So when they're screening candidates, they're screening candidates to make sure that candidates are not going to have or not going to run into those issues because of an ego or because of a issue in their past or because they have an authoritarian complex. That's just not what we're looking for out there. And we need you to be firm, but we need you to be fair. So when you're going through highlighting those factors, if you have that in your experience, don't say like, oh, I don't have any experience in law enforcement. No, you do. You just need to learn how to correlate your experience over to law enforcement. Let's go to someone at the cash register at McDonald's or a shopping center, dealing with customer complaints, dealing with asset security in values exceeding XY amounts of dollars, right? That's how you're going to word it. If you're a cash register operator, I don't really know, the cashier, I guess. Cashier is the term. If you're a cashier at a supermarket or say even a McDonald's, you're dealing with money. And you're dealing with the security of that money. You're making sure that no one takes money out that doesn't. You can put that down. I wouldn't say, hey, I'm dealing with the security of money. I would just say I'm responsible for the safety and security of X amount of dollars at the beginning and end of every shift. Using a term like shift, law enforcement work and shift work. So if you use terms like shift, proficient in shift work, all right, that's another asset you can put if you work for a convenience store or McDonald's or as a cashier. It doesn't matter. So those are the things that really matter. Go on, as I said, go on usajobs.gov. Series code is 0083. Run through there. Then take your specific experience, even if it's just school, right? Even if it's just school, go in there, if you're in school for public safety or if you're in school for criminal justice, take that, and instead of putting it down as experience in this, you just write educated and proficient in handling and assessing laws, changes in case law, changes in legislative action, and understanding and interpreting law enforcement legal applications. I mean, I'm kind of making this up as I go, but that sounds great on a resume bullet. And you just have to tailor that resume and get a template that works out well to highlight that experience you have. So even if you say, hey, I have no work experience, volunteer, get some volunteer experience. If you do an internship, that's experience. If you've done an internship with a local PD, the U.S. Marshals, or any other department out there, you have experience, whether that's actual field experience, maybe not, but you might, if you've done a ride along with law enforcement, get out there, do a ride along. All right, this brings me to the last part that I want to discuss. If you feel that you have zero experience, right? You're starting your college right now, and you feel everything you've done up to this point, you were a construction individual, which, by the way, even if you work construction, you have safety experience, right? You made sure that job safety and security of tools was all accounted for every day and every evening when you start and end your shift. But if you say you feel like you have no experience, there's options out there. Go invest in yourself. And it doesn't have to be money, right? You can go invest yourself with time. Go sign up for FEMA, right? Take some FEMA courses. I'm telling you this because you're going to have to take FEMA courses as a law enforcement officer anyway. ICS, Incident Command System, and all these other different FEMA courses. That's one free option. Sign up. Don't ever lose your FEMA account, password, and ID. It's a pain to get it back. A little side note there. Don't ever lose it. I haven't lost mine, thankfully, but I know plenty of officers that have. And every year when they got to renew FEMA, it's a pain for them. They're calling FEMA, they're sending emails. FEMA doesn't get back to you for 10 days, and they were supposed to turn in their training 7 days ago. So, side note. Anyway, go on to FEMA. Go on to REMS, Readiness Emergency Management for School. Go into their free training and type in, law enforcement. I believe they have a school resource officer training, right? Even if you don't want to be a school resource officer, that's training, not education, but training you can put down. You can say, hey, proficiently trained and certified, if you get a certificate of completion, certified in school resource officer safety, right? So that's a perfect application. There's ways to build your resume. And if you just go onto that, there's a lot of free training. And then after the free training, don't be afraid to invest in yourself monetarily either. I'm not telling you to go out and spend $10,000. You don't have to do that. But if you think about it, people are spending $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 on college degrees these days at just a normal university. I'm not talking an Ivy League, but just a normal university. And they're going into debt for their degree. And I hate to say it, but if I could get a hold of these applicants before they finish their degree, I could get you through, after you become a cop, I could get you through your entire associate's and bachelor's degree for free. And it would be paid for. But I keep running into applicants beforehand anyway. So don't be afraid to invest in yourself monetarily beforehand, right? If you have to take a course here that's, a $50 course here that's a firearms course, or a $500 firearms course, or a $3,000, prep course, it pays for itself. Officers are starting out around 60,000 plus now for a majority of agencies. Every department this year has increased officer salary across the nation dramatically. Now's a great time to become a law enforcement officer. It's a little jealous on my part, and I'm sure the officers before me said the same thing about the starting salaries. I'm like, man, that's a great starting salary. Not that I don't have a great starting salary when I started with my first department. I'm just saying now it's even higher. So go on and just invest in yourself, whether it's time, monetarily. As I said, I'm not telling you to sit here and invest in yourself $10,000 for a 2-day training course. But if you're willing to invest $50,000 in a degree, then you should be willing to invest a little bit more in a training, because a training is going to be an end and a completion. You are going to need to learn this amount of knowledge in order to get your certificate, in order to say, hey, I'm certified in this training. You don't have to have a degree to become a law enforcement officer. You should have a degree, and it does help you down the line, especially with promotion. But you can get your degree for free after you become a cop if you want to. Anyway, I hope this helps. Listen, those gifts are down below for you. The Getting Started as a Police Officer workshop. It's going to walk you through the entire hiring process, get you on the right foot, preventing you from making those mistakes that are going to get you dismissed before you even start. If you have something more specific, if you want to know how to get your degree after becoming a cop for free, reach out for a coaching call. We'll sit down. We'll talk about it. Like I said, both of these are my gift to you. Reach out and we'll go through it and see what specific plan we can set up for you so that you can become a law enforcement officer as soon as possible with the agency you want. As always, stay safe, and I'll see you next time.